back on for a little bit more time. But as we know, there have been 2 attempted assassinations of Donald Trump just in the past few months. So what is going on with the Secret Service? I think it's an important conversation to have. And the guy joining us right now, I have a lot of respect for 21 years. He was a Secret Service special agent, and he's got a great podcast called Up the Middle. I'm joined now by Ross Yurz, who joins us right now on the program, also known as Yurz. Ross, I appreciate you joining us. How are you, my friend?
Not bad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. All right, let's start from square one. Your career. Let's start there. Do I have that correct? You were 21-year Secret Service special agent, right? You started doing this a long time ago.
2000, July of 2000. Started in Philadelphia. Did 3 years there, 4 years in San Francisco. The next 11 and a half in D.C. The first 3 with Hillary and Bill Clinton. And the next, whatever's remaining, in the Washington field office before wrapping up in Los Angeles. And then I was peace out, time to go.
Gotcha. Well, you've been doing this for a while, so you're the perfect person to talk about these issues. Let's start with this attempted assassination the other day. Then we'll get to what took place a few months ago. What do you make of this? Donald Trump playing on the golf course. This person is spotted 300 to 500 yards away, never shoots at the president, and we're also a former president, and I also understand he never had a direct line of sight to the former president. What do you make of this story?
Well, he's there for... I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. That being said, I do not believe for a second that Lee Harvey Oswald had anything to do with killing JFK.
Right.
So I guess maybe I am a conspiracy theory guy.
No, I don't think you're I would disagree. I don't think you are, and here's why. There's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was not the lone shooter, if the shooter at all. So I don't think you're a conspiracy theorist at all. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is a conspiracy theorist, and I think Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist. You, sir, are not, in my opinion. So are you alluding to the fact that you believe that somebody tipped him off? Tell me what you think happened. And we don't know for sure, but tell me what you think.
Ultimately, and I know the special agent in charge of Miami very well. We were in D.C. together for quite a while. Ultimately, I've got a lot of questions. And it starts actually, I know you're touching on that later, but it starts actually back in Butler, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. If I'm protecting you and you are standing on an X that you just got shot at, I'm not going to let you stand back up on that same spot.
Right.
And you know better.
Right. So if somebody said, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's a small detail. And it's not the president's detail where there's literally 300 people on that assignment. Not working all the same day, of course, but there's that many people there. On a smaller detail like the one I did with Bill and Hillary, you know everybody, and everybody knows everybody. And not only are we part of the security detail, but we're also part of the family. And so we kind of bend the rules a little bit, and we're as much staff as we are security. Mm-hmm. And so when Donald Trump says, I want to stand up, they're probably not going to tell him in that moment, no. Right. They absolutely should have. Mm-hmm. And I was even talking to some colleagues how if I was one of the agents to his rear, I would have just rolled down and taken at his knees.
Right.
And let the boss get pissed at me.
Yeah.
And then I'll just tell the boss, you tell me why you're going to let somebody who's 6'4" stand up in the spot they were just shot at.
Right.
And those cute decorations that go from the right and to the left of the podium that have flags draped over them, they're steel.
Yeah.
Why would you not be behind that? And so now fast forward to the golf course. If you hear any dogs chirping in the background, that's my big dog and the puppy.
Well, keep them away from the Haitian immigrants, according to right-wing MAGA Republicans. Sorry, that's another can of worms. Go ahead.
I'm with them in a cup of coffee and a gun and all kinds of things. Now fast forward to the golf course. He's there for 12 plus hours. in a pink shirt.
Mhm.
I know how to hide. I've done surveillance for 21 years. I've been aside of a guy I later arrested 3 times within arm's length of him during the course of the day. He never knew it was me. Changing clothes, changing appearance, having a hat on, having your hair in a ponytail, having it down. Very simple changes that can happen quickly that'll hide me. A pink t-shirt will not hide me unless I'm at, I can't remember the group, but the people who walk for breast cancer,
Right.
The lady that started that nonprofit.
Sure.
Unless I'm at that event, then maybe pink's probably a good color.
So Ross, is it plausible then? Because I want to give some context here. You are not a Trump supporter, right? You're an anti-Trumper like me. So I don't want people to say, well,
that.
is that fair to say?
You twice. I voted for you twice.
But this time around, you are not.
I'm an independent.
Right.
And I tell people I can think for myself.
Gotcha. Okay. So I wanted to clarify that so people understand. You're not some big MAGA guy who's a conspiracy theorist. I don't think you are. And you're somebody that has been doing this for a very long time, a 21-year former Secret Service member. So is it plausible then, from what you're telling me in both shootings, that I don't know if I'd use the term inside job, but that there might have been a few people with knowledge that might have helped the shooter? Is that what I'm grasping from you?
No, not in the first one.
Okay.
Though, again, with questions, I would ask why he was cremated so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you this, though? How is it possible? I'm talking about the first shooting now. How is it possible that there are crowd members all over the place on video shouting, he's going on the roof, he's got a gun? And how does nobody take this kid out before he pulls the trigger? That's what's confusing to me.
I've got a bunch of concerns why that's not as easy as what everybody thinks it is.
Okay.
We're not all over the place. That's why we use state and local authorities to help us with a security plan. Mm-hmm. We can't do it by ourselves. So when something like this happens, we try not to have a pissing match come about because we need them later. We can't have them being upset with us over, you were supposed to be on the roof. No, you were supposed to, not that kind of thing. So when they say that's a big enough, that's a fairgrounds. That's a big outdoor facility. And so when they say, hey, he's on the roof, we're at the other end of campus. We're not near, it was outside of the secure perimeter. Not far enough outside of the secure perimeter, but he can have a gun out there. I'm going to shut this door quick.
Okay. No problem. No problem. If you're just joining us, by the way, he is Ross Yurz. He's a retired Secret Service special agent over 21 years. Also worked in Hillary Clinton's detail when she was running for office. Go ahead, Ross.
So, yeah, back from commercial. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we were not close enough to that vicinity to respond as quickly as what we probably will be in the future.
Yeah.
The irony of that building, it was assigned to either sheriff's department,
correct,
or police, whoever it was,
local enforcement,
who were supposed to be on the roof. Mm-hmm. And that is why I believe we, the Secret Service, my colleagues at the Uniform Division counter snipers, did not shoot as soon as what they could have or what they're being asked to by society.
I think that's a fair explanation. What you're saying, I think, is fair. But what I'm hearing from you from the shooting the other day, how the hell does this guy know that Donald Trump happens to be on the golf course, yet alone that golf course? He had to have been tipped by somebody. Am I wrong in making that assumption?
No. Yes and no. I mean, it certainly looks that way. And keep in mind, the last presidential candidate that was actually shot was, now, of course, I'm going to brain fart. I think it was McGovern in Laurel, Maryland.
Right.
70s,
Yeah.
40 plus years ago. George McGovern I was assigned to him for a while. Thank God I'm starting to forget that stuff. But George McGovern, and he was shot because the guy couldn't get to Nixon.
Right.
Because there was too much security around Nixon.
Right.
So now all of a sudden Trump's shot at, or an attempt of sorts made twice in a summer.
Mm-hmm.
That stinks too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I don't like, Ross, and you could tell me whether you agree or not. What I don't like is when Donald Trump and others, the first thing they do is they want to blame the left. They want to blame Kamala Harris. They want to call things an inside job. You've got J.D. Vance. I played audio, and he's basically saying, well, why is it only the other side that's trying to, I'm paraphrasing here, kill Donald Trump? Nobody's tried to kill Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. I find that to be very dangerous rhetoric, and I guess that's another can of worms of a separate conversation to an extent, but I do believe a lot of the dangerous rhetoric put forth at times by both sides, but I certainly think there's a lot more coming from the right. But yet immediately after this happens, they look at Donald Trump as a martyr. They wear those weird ear bandages at the Republican National Convention. I mean, I just think it's weird. The whole thing is strange.
For an ear, by the way, that is praise Jesus, miraculously healed.
Right. Do you find that weird, by the way? Because you know a lot about guns.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about this. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist either, but you know a lot about guns and wounds and that you've been trained heavily. When you look at what happened to Donald Trump in that first shooting where he was struck in the ear, and then the next day he's seen without a bandage on and no wounds on the golf course. What goes through your mind when you see that stuff? And do you believe he was struck by a bullet?
I don't believe he was struck by a bullet. I believe it was some sort of shrapnel. I do believe he was hit because there was clear blood. Now, if you want to jump into conspiracy theories, what husband and wife pairing are two very good friends of his? Vince and Linda McMahon. He hears this shout out. He goes down and grabs his ear with the cuff of his shirt. That's what the WWE calls blading. Because you've got a razor blade hidden in your shirt and you scrape your ear with it and you bleed like a stuck pig.
I haven't heard that before.
That's why in the WWE back in the day, that you see a bunch of the guys with scars on their forehead because in their wristband is a blade and they would rub their forehead right before you hit me.
Right.
And now all of a sudden there's blood all over the place.
So you're saying that, and even though that could be a conspiracy theory, but plausible, you're saying that is there any percentage in your mind saying that could have actually happened? That this was staged in some way? You're somebody who's worked in the Secret Service for over 20 years. Are you willing to say on the record that there is a possibility that could have been a staged incident?
No, because there was a firefighter who died.
Right.
And if that is collateral damage for your staged incident, all that does is it goes and supports the theory that's already going on that Donald Trump isn't fit to serve. If you would be okay with something like that.
Right. Okay. So, I hear what you're saying there. Yeah.
Butler was an actual attack. Now that we've got two, I'm not saying the second one was not going to be an actual attack. But I'm saying when we've got two in one summer and we haven't had that many in 40 years.
Right.
It looks bad.
When you say it looks bad, are you saying it looks bad for the Secret Service? Are you saying it looks bad for Donald Trump? Be specific. Like when you say obviously it's a bad look for any president, right? We don't want violence. We don't want political violence. I get that. But like when you say it looks bad, who are you referring to?
The Trump campaign, when they get up and say that it's Joe Biden's fault, it's Kamala Harris's fault. First of all, any other politician in our history makes any set of the statements made by Donald Trump, and now J.D. Vance, they're done. Remember Gary Hart?
Yes.
He was ousted just for having a woman sit on his lap.
Right.
He didn't pay her off to not take a picture.
Mm-hmm.
They smiled for the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden we got this knucklehead saying he could shoot somebody in the middle of Park Avenue, and he wouldn't lose any votes.
Let me ask you this. If not for Donald Trump's rhetoric, notice how I'm not, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because the Republicans, as you rightfully so mentioned, J.D. Vance and Trump and the MAGA Republicans, they're blaming Democrats and Joe Biden for this, which I think is absurd, by the way. But let me ask you this. If not for Donald Trump's rhetoric constantly going after basically everybody that disagrees with him, going after religions. You're not Jewish. You hate your religion if you don't support me. Going after Christians. Charlie Kirk saying you're not a true Christian if you don't support Donald Trump. Really going after everybody if you're not a Trump cultist. Do you believe that both of these shootings would have happened? The incidents would have happened to begin with if not for this rhetoric coming from the right?
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of odd still being in outdoor venues, saying that our country doesn't have a gun problem from behind ballistic glass. So I think they could work on their messaging a little bit. I'm convinced from a while ago, Donald Trump never wanted to be president in the first place.
Oh, I agree. 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. He didn't think he was going to win. I think Ross, he did this for his brand. And then all of a sudden when he won, did you see how shocked he looked for the next 48 hours? He was quiet, subdued. I agree with you 100%. I think he did this because he was angry at Barack Obama, who embarrassed him at that dinner. He thought it'd be good for his brand. He never thought he could actually win. And then when he won, I think he was in shock. That's what I think.
He was scared. If you see the photos and the video of him in the Oval Office the next day or next couple of days, a ceremonial visit to the White House with Barack Obama, he was scared.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care how tough he thinks he is, what art of whatever deal he can make. He was scared.
Ross, do you think this is going to happen again before the elections? Do you think there's going to be another assassination attempt before November?
I'm not ruling it out because when I saw this one yesterday or the day before, whenever I saw it, I didn't even see it right away. It was kind of sort of already becoming old news by the time I saw it.
Yeah.
And
sure. So they fired the head of the Secret Service a few months ago. They fired her. And now Lindsey Graham and other right-wing politicians are asking for the same thing for this new guy that's in charge. What are your thoughts on that?
Lindsey Graham needs to come out of the closet. He's got too much. He's got too much weighing on his mind to make intelligent decisions right now.
I think you're probably right about that. But
having 11 and a half years in DC does that to you. I'm right.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. This is a difficult situation, though, going back to what took place a couple days ago, right, Ross? I mean, on a golf course, it's not easy for the Secret Service. And we also know that he's the former president, and they're asking for more security. They're asking for more to protect Donald Trump. But if the guy's going out on a golf course, doesn't that make your job a lot more difficult?
Sure. I don't like quoting Hollywood a lot, but here's one where they got it right. From the movie In the Line of Fire, John Malkovich essentially makes the claim that if I'm willing to trade my life for the president's, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
That's very true. It's not a guarantee, as the kid in Butler found out.
Sure. Yeah.
But it improves your chances if you're not worried about getting away unscathed.
So, Ross, I'm going to speak in very general terms here, and you tell me if you agree with these statements, okay? And I'm basing it on kind of what you're saying, because I think we agree a lot, and my opinions on these two shootings. The first shooting, certainly there were a lot of failures, either and or by local law enforcement and the Secret Service. Probably wasn't struck by a bullet, but probably shrapnel, something along those lines. And that's probably what took place. It was a lone shooter, a nutty 20-year-old kid who tried to do something very stupid and was a very bad shot. And then in this shooting the other day, a deranged individual, clearly with mental illness and a felon who somehow got his hands on an AK-47 and probably was tipped off by at least one person that Donald Trump would be playing golf on that course that day and probably also acted alone. Would you agree with those statements?
I agree with he acted alone. He can't act alone and be tipped off by somebody. That's
right. True.
Mathematically, that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I think more the fact that he knew it was Mar-a-Lago. He knew that it was Trump's house. He rolled the dice and said, he's going to be here eventually. I'm willing to wait here for 12 hours till it happens. And I'm willing to get in before everybody else does so they don't see me coming. And that's the tragedy of his story, was that he waited so long, just like the people who wait in line to get into the rallies, and then they never get in. And that's just a good thing, to be clear, that he didn't get the shot off. But his luck is that he got that damn pink shirt. One of those things that was a good idea at 7 o'clock in the morning, or 3 o'clock in the morning, whenever he got dressed, and burned him.
So you think his shirt was his demise, and how he was spotted by somebody? You believe, if not for wearing a pink shirt, he might have.
Huge. Yeah, it's a huge element. I don't think it's the only thing, but not only was it pink, obviously a brighter color,
sure,
but he was in bushes,
right,
which is going to be darker,
right, of course.
Then I think it's going to stand out even more.
So chances are maybe just acted by himself, didn't get tipped off, and was in the right place at the right time, waited for a while, and eventually Trump shows up, on that golf course. And do you agree with me on my assessment on that first shooting, that it was probably, kid acted alone, mistakes were made, local enforcement and the Secret Service?
Yeah. Clearly Secret Service as well. Back to the roof thing, that police department, those two officers from whatever, I think it was the sheriff's office, were on the top floor.
Mm-hmm.
When Crooks went up the stairs on the ladder, they walked right past him, or he walked right past them.
Right.
They were inside the building.
Ross, when you were in Hillary Clinton's detail, I don't even know if you're allowed to talk about this, but when you were in Hillary Clinton's detail, did you have any credible threats, death threats against her when you were protecting her in the Secret Service?
More on Chelsea.
Really? Wow.
We picked her up. Former children don't get protection after the age of 18. And then we picked her up by executive order of then President Bush, because when she started campaigning for her mom, she had not so much threats as she did unusual interests. Like, hey, I'm going to fly across the country to get her autograph. Really?
Right. Yeah.
You're going to fly across the country to get an autograph that's still not worth the amount of your plane ticket?
Right.
That's not a good business decision if you're putting it on eBay.
No, it's not.
On the other hand, was number 2 at the time she was running.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the president, without question, is the biggest threat that is under the protection of the Secret Service. And he was. They get about anywhere from 3 to 4 different threats a day.
Wow.
Usually the vice president is number 2.
Let me go back to that, because I don't think a lot of people, I never knew that. So you're telling me, and back then, and probably even now, maybe even more so, the president and the vice president get several death threats a day.
Yeah.
For the most part. Wow. That's unbelievable.
Since Bush Sr., every successor surpassed their predecessor in the first term from what the predecessor had in 2. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in his first term, Clinton beat the 4 years of Bush Sr. In Bush Jr., W's first term, he surpassed Clinton's 8. So in only one term, he beats all 8 years of Clinton. In only one term of Obama, he beats all 8 years of W.
Right.
Cheney was not exactly the most popular vice president.
No.
And Hillary passed him.
Wow. Dangerous and dangerous times we're living in now. I guess with a gentleman of your experience, over 20 years in the Secret Service, If you were behind closed doors right now with Donald Trump and you had the opportunity to give him some advice, what would you say to him, if anything?
You keep telling us that you have the best people with you. Realize you're not one of them, so listen to them. They all told him to prepare. And this is me as a political scientist talking. They all told him to prepare for that debate, which he did not do, clearly. They all told him not to blame things on Joe Biden, who he's not even running against anymore. They all told him to be more presidential. Those people, they're not that high up in the Republican Party because they just got out of college. They've got experience.
Right.
And he's not using it.
It's really good advice. Really, really good advice. Hey, before I let you go, Ross, and I really do appreciate you coming on. It's a really good conversation, especially with somebody of your expertise. Can you talk a little bit about your podcast? Because first of all, you have a great radio voice, by the way. Start there. And, obviously a wealth of experience. Tell me a little bit about your podcast, Up the Middle, and how people can follow you.
Appreciate that. Well, I started that about a year and a half ago. You mentioned a former colleague of mine. Dan Bongino was just fired from Fox News. And later that same weekend, Tucker Carlson would follow suit. And I'm lying in bed going, I can do better. So I got into podcasting. I had another podcast that was about day trading and cryptocurrency. It wasn't going anywhere, so I let it go. Switched over to what I branded as Up the Middle because I'm very conservative on some things. Sorry, I'm still getting the voice used to being on the radio and such.
That's okay.
I'm very conservative in some things, very progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it, on others. And so, just left versus right, up the middle. And that's me. I've got more guns spread out throughout the country than my Florida neighbors have in their bedroom closet. I've actually read the Bible.
Right.
And then there's, clearly, check out the watch band,
right.
There's clearly things on the left that I support and believe in. And I believe that most Americans are that same way.
Yeah.
So we started that in May of 2023. By the end of the summer, we were on internet radio. I started my own station doing very much the same thing you're doing. We take podcasts, repurpose them for 24-hour play-by-play, and then we would also encourage that podcaster to learn how to do a live show on that station. By the end of last year, one of the podcasters introduced me to terrestrial radio. Now we're on, as of the end of this week, we'll be on 6 AM/FM stations, 12 internet stations, and wow. I think I got like 16 social media platforms that we stream to.
Well, congratulations. Maybe we can get you in Vegas too. We'll work on that for you.
The thing is, I still don't have the listenership you do. So well done.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've got to tell you this. I also appreciate you reaching out to me because this would not have happened if you didn't do that. And you're welcome back anytime. And I really do appreciate you. Sure. Absolutely. I appreciate your expertise. Thank you for your service as an agent. And I will also say that we probably agree on a lot of different things, criticism on both sides, but you're a smart guy. And I really
ask you that.
What's up?
Do you label yourself? Because obviously I'm a week into knowing who you are.
No, that's okay.
Are you a progressive? Are you a liberal?
So it's interesting.
Just also doesn't like Trump.
It's so nice to be asked a question like that, and somebody that's a MAGA supporter just labeled me a liberal. So let me just start there.
I get the thing.
Yeah. So I wasn't very.
And I aren't friends either.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't really into politics in my 20s. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump in 2016. I didn't vote for Barack Obama because I also think Mitt Romney's a decent man. I think he would have been a decent president. I think John McCain's was a decent man. Wasn't a big Sarah Palin person, but the reason why I didn't vote then either is I would have been okay with Obama or McCain because I want decent human beings. That's how I vote. I want somebody decent. I made a mistake in 2016. always been a registered independent. I didn't vote for Hillary or Trump. I had no idea Trump was going to be the monster that he became. In 2020, I voted for Joe Biden because it was more of an anti-Trump vote, even though I have a lot of respect for Joe Biden and I think he's a decent man. I'd vote for a ham sandwich at this point over Donald Trump. There's no question I lean to the left on social issues, right? When it comes to gun control, when it comes to a woman's right to choose, not giving tax breaks to the wealthy and to the rich. I also, though, believe in a border wall. I also believe, in capital punishment. I think if you murder somebody and there's DNA evidence that you murdered somebody, I don't think you should be allowed to live. So I do have some very, very few, but some opinions that the right share. And, listen, the far right, many of them on the right, to give them credit, they are very pro-Israel. I think it's a problem on the extreme left. But right now, I have a lot more in common with the left than I do the right. I'm still an independent because I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 midterms. I would vote for a ham sandwich over Donald Trump. I'm very anti-Trump. I lean to the left on social issues, but I'm still capable of voting for a Republican if I see somebody that I think is a decent human being. Example, if Adam Kinzinger runs for office, I will vote for Adam Kinzinger. I disagree with Liz Cheney 99% policy, but I have some respect for her, right? I have respect for Dick Cheney that he came forward and has endorsed Kamala Harris. Anthony Scaramucci did my show yesterday. I would vote for that guy in a heartbeat. So I hope I answered your question. That's kind of where I stand.
Well done. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on, Ross. Love to have you on again. And look forward to listening to your podcast, Up the Middle, my friend. Really appreciate the time, sir. You have a great day, and thank you so much.
Thank you.